The journey is conversations with ordinary people about stories of transformation and how we may have had setbacks in our life and how we persevered through those, how we've learned from those obstacles, and how they've maybe helped us on our path today. Well, welcome to the journey. I have with me a special guest today, Estin Fichter, and he is a gentleman that I just met just recently through a mutual friend of ours, Lori Burkus Nelson, had kind of had met you, Easton, and possibly knows your family as well, and Lori and I go way back, and she says, "Well, you got to meet this young man," and then we got a chance to meet just recently, and I'm very excited about what you're doing and what you're going to be doing in the future. So, welcome to the journey.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. So whenever we have a guest on the show, I always start off with the same question, and that is, when you have the opportunity to have fun and just kind of like, and you're not working or working out or getting ready for the upcoming year, what does Easton do to have fun?
I've gotten into golf a lot lately, so that's
Okay.
been fun. It's opportunity to go out with the guys. If I'm not golfing with them, it's something to do by myself. So it's really peaceful. I've liked doing that. I read some too. I've stopped reading as much, but I still try to. I like that. And then obviously still just got out of high school, so hanging out with my friends, having a good time, whether it's going golfing or just hanging out at someone's house, swimming and all that stuff. So
Sure, sure. Well, and yeah, why don't we go ahead and start there? You just graduated from high school, and I know you in a couple weeks you're going to be off to your next chapter, which is at
yeah.
the University of Wisconsin Platteville to play football for them, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then you are planning on majoring in what? What do you plan on majoring there?
So I'll be double majoring in psychology and then business management as well.
Okay. All right. So very exciting. So tell us a little bit about your background in athletics. I know that that's a big focus of your life, and so when did that all start? And tell us a little bit about how that all began.
So I started playing basketball really young. Same with football. I started at 6 years old. I just fell in love with it then. I played basketball up until the end of my freshman year. And then I've been playing football since I was 6 years old and don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So it's definitely been a part of my life and kind of developed me into who I am between all the guys I've grown up with and all the coaches and everything throughout the way they've helped me. So it's been a huge part of my life.
And who would you say, when you were young, what was some of the biggest influencers that got you involved with sports, basketball and football? Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
So my family was big into it. My older brother played basketball and football, so I was always at the practices, and I was just waiting until I could actually practice when he was out there too. So just being around it so much, I just always wanted to be out there as well. I didn't just want to sit on the side and watch. So being at all the tournaments and all the games and just having to sit there kind of stunk. So when I could finally get out there and I was 6 and play, it was great, and I didn't want to ever go back. So.
Gotcha. So do you just have one sibling, or do you have more than one sibling?
I have two. So I have a younger brother, he's 14, and then I have my older brother too, and he's 23. So
23. Okay. So there is you're 18, and so there's a little bit of a gap difference. So
yeah.
so yeah, but watching him especially play at a little bit higher level than six
Uh,
six years old before you get the opportunity was um I imagine was challenging, as well as you probably picked up on that would be some of your in-house competition to play with, right?
yeah, definitely a little bit. Yeah.
And then you switched from basketball and then just primarily focused on football. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that and what positions did you play? And
So basketball, I went through a big growth spurt, my middle school. So I was kind of like in between. I'd always played guard, so I played kind of big then, and I thought that was fun. But once I got back to high school, I started playing guard again. And then with all the COVID and weird stuff, and then I had some injuries happen there that we can talk about later. But that kind of, I just decided I was going to focus on football and just kind of work towards that after my freshman season. And that was, we played like 7 games that year for basketball. I wasn't really having as much fun with it as I used to. So stuck to football and had a blast at that. Still am. So.
And then as a football player for Hananiga, those were that I know you've been in the Roscoe area the majority of your life, I'm assuming. And
Yeah.
and so with football, you've played a couple different positions. And what positions have you primarily gravitated toward?
So when I was younger, I played corner for a long time, and then I played a little bit of running back. I never really played it, but I was always like fourth man or whatever until like sixth grade year. Then I switched to middle linebacker and running back. And then throughout there, I just kind of stuck with running back, and I played linebacker this last year as well, and that was super fun. It kind of playing with the guys that I grew up with, and then playing my like young position, I guess, when I was in middle school playing linebacker, it really brought me back to those times, and it was really fun to finish out my high school career playing something that I played when I was young. So.
Sure, sure. So this past year, obviously you guys had a very successful year. You guys did really well. And then, going into your senior year, and I know there's a lot of, I think about myself, I think about when my son was playing, all the expectations that you have that are all around your senior year, because that's the year that we're supposed to peak, the year that you're supposed to shine the most, not only as individually, but then also if you have a group of guys that have been together for a while, the whole goal is to be able to to capitalize on that. And so, tell us a little bit about you had some things happen though prior to your senior year. Tell us a little bit about that.
So my whole summer for my senior year and kind of even before the summer too, I had been training with this team, Midwest Boom out of Chicago. They're a phenomenal team. The coaches there are great and everything. So it's a team primarily to get you looked at by colleges and everything. So big in the recruitment game. They're amazing at that. And so that whole time I'd been working my tail off like every day a week. I'd lift and I'd go throw with my quarterback and this and that. We'd have practices and tournaments on the weekends. And so I was super dedicated throughout all that. And college camp season came around in summer. I went to my first one. I was healthy, fully healthy, performed super well, talked to a lot of coaches. Um, that actually set me up for my visit with Platteville. They offered me there a few days after, and it was phenomenal. The first feeling of that was super cool. And then kind of going in later that summer, we started our team camps for Hananiga, and we were at the 7-on-7 at Beloit, and I was running a route, caught the pass, but I ended up tearing my hamstring. So after that whole summer and a whole off season of work, I mean, put in the most work I've probably done in my life, and having like those high expectations, not only set for myself, but from that team. Um, it was definitely tough, but I had some injuries my freshman year that kind of they were way more tough than this one. So going through like the training at Midwest Boom, there was a coach there, and he was super good with kind of letting me know that I'm more than just an athlete too. And that was before everything that happened. So that helped me a ton with kind of a good mindset with that injury as opposed to my prior ones. So I was going into the season definitely a little bummed. I missed my first game. But after that, I stayed pretty healthy throughout the season and was able to finish it out with the guys. So I was super grateful for that.
Well, let's go back a little bit and kind of give us a little bit of detail about what happened your freshman year and how did you, granted you were much younger, but how did you mentally and emotionally respond to that injuries or those injuries that happened your freshman year?
So 2020, obviously that super weird year. The July 2020, I broke my elbow. And that was like we were in the midst of kind of working out summer workouts for football, and they weren't sure if we were gonna have a season. So fortunately, when I did break my elbow, the season got canceled and postponed until the spring. So I was able to heal up and kind of get back from that. Still took a toll because like the whole COVID, kind of how I worked through that was through working out. So I lost all the progress from that. And that definitely stunk. But it didn't hit as hard. And then going into the next year, football season was starting. And that spring, it was that weird time frame for that season. And I ended up playing. I was on the JV team as a freshman. I was super pumped, really excited. Got to the second game halfway through. I had a really good first half, then came down on my knee wrong and ended up, it looked like I should have torn my MCL, ended up just hyperextending it. So I was out for a week, came back the next week against Harlem, rainy game, super bad day. And this was my first game back from injury, from that small injury. First carry I got, it was super slippery out. I made a cut and a guy landed on my leg and it just snapped. So got carried off by an ambulance and everything. And that one definitely took a toll on me. That was for sure my biggest kind of obstacle. And it really set me up for this because going through all that, and I felt so heavy on expectations then, like my whole identity and everything growing up and up until freshman year, obviously my first year of high school, I really wanted to like prove myself and prove that I could live up to the expectations. So it was a heavy toll that it took on me through that injury. And that took a while. Physical therapy, everything. I had to get surgery. I've got screws and a plate in my leg now, so it should be good to go. But yeah, that freshman year set me up, and that's why I want to go into everything mental health because I struggled a lot then and went through my lowest time of my life. And I looked around for psychologists around here, sports psychologists. The closest one was like 4 or 5 hours away, and obviously we couldn't make that drive. I was completely handicapped and in a wheelchair, so that would have been way too difficult. Didn't really work out. So I kind of started learning a little bit more how to handle things on my own. Fortunately, I was able to figure it out a little bit. Started listening to psychologists online, reading up a lot on it, kind of why I felt the way I did, and just I was super lucky that I could kind of get out of that space. I was at the lowest point I could have possibly been at, and everything seemed like it was going wrong. So to be able to get out of there, what I thought was the worst year of my life, and come back and look 4 years later and see that it was the biggest blessing I've ever had in my life. I got my passion basically served up on a silver platter. And I had that experience now to where I can help people and kind of work towards that. And that's why I want to do what I want to do now. So I'm really grateful for that, even though at the time I felt like it was the worst thing ever. So yeah.
Well, and for many of us, and that is, I mean, a huge part of what we talk about here on the journey is, is referencing Joseph Campbell's hero's journey and the idea that we throughout life we're going to have setbacks, we're going to have obstacles that happen. Some of them may not be as dramatic as what happened with you with that injury, and then because it wasn't, as you pointed out, it wasn't just the injury itself, it was all the expectations that were tied into it, of the timing of it. You have the COVID was, kind of the background of it, the all the expectations of that piece of it. Like many young athletes, myself included, we get our identity wrapped up in our performance, and then when something happens, then we are then challenged, going uh, kind of like that one coach that you referred to is, Easton, you're more than a football player.
Uh,
And so tell us a little bit about that, because I'm curious about what was it that, what was he teaching you? What was he modeling for you? What stood out to you when that coach was talking to you about that?
Yeah, so initially this was a huge program. I'd been trying out for a couple of years, and my freshman year I made it, but then broke my leg, so I couldn't do it. The next 2 years I didn't make the team. And then finally that last year I was fortunate enough to make the team, and it's like I said, super premier team. They send people all over. So being surrounded by those athletes helped a ton. It's all people who want to succeed, have the same goals, and help each other get there. And this coach stood out to me. So he started a club. It was called Club 212, and it was like a character development thing. It was great, and they'd talk to us before every practice. We'd have classroom time and all that. And really, what stood out actually about the program a bunch was our first practice there after the tryout when we all made the team. Every coach stood up in front of us and they anonymously said this, and they kind of explained and were vulnerable with us and showed that it was all right and stuff. And they explained adversity, that they'd gone through and how they'd overcome it. And this coach, so there's 4 teams, and luckily I landed on the one with Coach Sam. He was the like originator of Club 212 and everything with that. And I couldn't be lucky enough to have any other coach. I mean, the things he did for me in just that small time we were together, as explaining throughout the season, just everything with his mindset and explaining to everyone else, like, yeah, you're an athlete and you have all this and that, but you are so much more. And like, he's setting you up for life and for sports. So kind of correlating those two together and letting you know that, you're not just an athlete on the field. You're a brother off the field. You're a son. You're a student, and it's really important to see that. So, I think it would have been so much worse for me with that hamstring injury if I didn't have him kind of mentoring me for those 6 months. So, having him as a coach, I'm super grateful for it. And the impact he made on my life is it's crazy for having 6 or 7 months with him. So,
Sure, yeah. No, absolutely. And it sounds like, you know, you know, the wisdom that he was able to share with you and share with some of the other athletes, at the same time that, everyone's there for the reason to be able to go to that and prepare to go to that next level, that someone with his experience and with his uh, wisdom of being able to say, you do realize it's still just a game, right? That this is, and Dalton Bullard is the producer of the podcast, and he and I have been good friends, and he was a very premier wrestler for Belvedere High School back back in the '90s, and we talk about this idea that he was a four-time All-State and wrestled Division I at Nebraska and Illinois, and so had obviously success from that aspect of it. And we talk about this idea that um, winning a national title, winning a state title, winning, you know, whatever the event is, whatever that is, that is a great story. But what you learn along the journey is a better story. And
mhm.
I, my background is in bodybuilding and played football and wrestled too, but I competed in 16 different shows, having the good fortune to win a state national title, and those trophies are under my basement stairs. But what I learned from winning a national title when I was 18 is what I then took to then build a career as a counselor and a therapist, uh, as a strength conditioning coach at when I was doing that at Harlem, as well as, starting a couple different companies. It all goes back to the same formula that helped me be successful in sports allows you to be successful in life. So I think that Coach Sam's definitely is definitely on the right track with it.
Yeah, for sure. I can't say enough about him. He was great. So,
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit. I know that maybe because of Coach Sam, maybe because these couple different setbacks you had your freshman year, and then working so hard to get on that premier team, and then having the setback with the hamstring tear, um, led you to understand the importance of mental health and emotional development. And so tell me a little bit about what is it that you would like to do eventually, and then let's talk about what's going to happen on July 13th.
okay. So I've started this event, kind of working towards kind of figuring out what I could do right now to make an impact and something that I really want to dedicate my life to, making an impact on. And so I came up with this event, uh, kind of just an event where kids will come out and have fun, and we can also get a message pushed out to the community and the kids especially, so that when they're older and they start realizing, hey, maybe something's up right now, they kind of remember this event and go back and maybe think about, hey, I can go get help right now. I can go talk to somebody, and there's nothing wrong with it, because there is that negative stigma around it right now, whether it's in athletes or just in general, with mental health. And I think it definitely scares people off, which I don't understand. I mean, I think if you need help, you go get it. I don't see the problem in that, but I know there's a stigma around it, and I think it's super important that we can start to break that stigma. And this event, kind of, like I said, working towards pushing that mental health in these kids and making sure that the parents understand too, because athletes and athletics in general are getting more and more advanced. Kids are starting at younger ages, they're getting more trainings done and all this and that. So it's not just the athlete that needs to know it's okay, but kind of parents noticing these signs and, figuring out, okay, my kid's been a little off, or he doesn't really want to go to practice anymore. Are they just being lazy? Are they, going through something? Should you talk about it? Just being able to have an open conversation and not have something like super deep, serious talk, but be able just to ask and feel comfortable noticing those things. And either there might be something wrong, there might not be, but just kind of figuring that out, making sure that and that it's not unknown and they aren't going through anything that, they don't feel comfortable talking about.
Yeah, and I think, it is an interesting, I think it's an amazing idea of what you are wanting to do, and then and emphasizing. I mean, you didn't say it in exactly these words, but that's what came to my mind is that having parents as well as the athletes know that training their body, developing their skills physically is as important as developing mental, those mental skills and those emotional skills as well, and that it all comes together. At the higher level you go, athletic ability becomes more and more even, and you probably remember that as you got older, the distance between you and the other athletes became less and less physically, because as they were training and you were around more athletes, it was the big difference was mentally. Who was going to be more disciplined, who was going to put in the time, who was going to do the other uh, off practice mental and emotional as well as physical workouts. That seems to make the difference in long-term performance or returning from injuries.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that mental aspect of, obviously you can play, but if you can't handle yourself mentally and you aren't mentally tough in all those aspects and strong and really just notice how you're feeling and kind of how to handle that, I think it can definitely take a toll, especially on athletes. Because, especially in like elite athletes or even just general ones, a lot of their kind of mindset and mental aspect of things are based off performance. So if you have those off games or you have that bad practice or this and that, those injuries that come up, if you aren't in the right mindset to handle those and kind of just realize, hey, this sucks, but there's more to this, and I can get through to the next game and I can keep working at practice. That mental aspect is huge. And I think that's something that once you get to the higher levels, they do talk about more. But by then, I mean, obviously it's harder to create a habit when you're 19, 20 years old than when you're starting 10 years old, kind of building those habits. And I think that's something that programs should work towards emphasizing more with coaching too. And maybe not just on the athletics, but kind of making sure you develop the kids too. And I think programs are doing better about that nowadays, but it's a tough thing to do and it's a tough thing to get across, especially when people just think it's just hitting people and playing football or basketball or whatever sport you play in. So
Well, and it is an interesting, I mean, when you were talking about Coach Sam and program you were involved with, that they would have the character development program, that it sounds like if it wasn't required, it was definitely heavily suggested, um, before practice. And so that piece of it, just to think how far that's come. I mean, I remember when they first hired me, when Harlem, I was a school social worker at Harlem, and they first hired me as the first strength coach. I was the first paid strength coach in the Nick 10. Boylan had a program that Dana Pino was running at but he ran it because he just believed so much in what was going on, and he was their sophomore coach at the time. And Boylan would have, or Dan would have, a team, and then I would have a team at Harlem. We'd have speed and strength competitions against each other, and maybe one person from Hononegah would show up, or two people from Hononegah and one from Jefferson, but there was no other teams. And this was in 94, 95, through those 90s, and I had to work to convince let's say basketball coaches and volleyball coaches at that time, that their athletes would benefit if they had off-season workout programs. Like, I had to talk them into it and convince them that this was going to be beneficial, not detrimental. And
Mhm.
to think how far we've come regarding that piece. And the year that we won, that Harlem won the conference after a 20-year drought. I remember the night before the first game, I had this thought about, because this was a team that was, just like you guys last year at Honolulu, they were kind of ramping up, and there was a lot of expectation on this junior class that was there. And I went in and talked to Coach Benning the next day on Friday. I said, I'm a little concerned about the the players being ready. He goes, what are you talking about? We're ready. And I said, no, I'm talking about mentally. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, they're going to be super nervous and they're going to get in their own way if we don't do something. So I talked him into it. I know that he probably was thinking I'm way out there, but I had all the players come onto the stage, and I ended up doing a progressive relaxation, a guided imagery, um, probably about 2 hours before the game, and before they went to the locker room to start getting ready for the day. And we did that every game that season, from the first game all the way through. And I still have some athletes come up to me and go, well, I remember when we did that thing and you played that music. And and so it was I'm glad to hear that it's come a long way since the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, good deal. Well, tell us a little bit more about the event on the 13th, and if people want to be involved, what could they do? And yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
All right, so the event on July 13th that we're hosting is it's similar to the Pro Bowl, the NFL Pro Bowl. Kind of an experience, like I said, for the kids to just have fun. It's a community event too. We're gonna have food trucks there. We'll have vendor tents come out. There's gonna be a DJ booth, announcers and everything for the kids, because who doesn't like hearing their name called out when they make a play? So just kind of bringing a fun aspect to that, but also inviting the whole community out. Even if you aren't playing football or you don't have kids playing football, you can come out, watch, grab some good food, and hang out. So that'll be going on from 11 in the morning until 4. The actual events will start at 12 and they should end around 3. So then that gives an hour to hang out, grab food, hang out with everyone, and really just emphasizing that whole community aspect of bringing everyone together for the same goal, giving our athletes an experience that they really won't forget, and giving them that cause that they won't forget as well. So the event should be super fun. We've got a bunch of events planned. It's fully free. You can sign up on our website. We have a form. You just fill that out. Like I said, fully free. It's topprospectstraining.com. Just look it up and click on literally 3 buttons, and then you're at the sign up. You should be all good, and you're set for the event. Anyone first through incoming freshmen, so freshmen who just graduated 8th grade, you'll be able to participate in it, and we'll break it up into age groups as well, so that it's obviously not first graders going against 14-year-olds or anything. Um, so that way it's pretty competitive and it'll be fun. Prizes for top performers and winners of the event. So I'm really excited to just see everyone get out there, have some fun, and compete too. So,
Awesome. And then, and I've been grateful for our conversation just recently, in that Shatter Our Silence, the suicide prevention program that I started up in 2016, will be the sponsor for the event and be able to allow it to be a nonprofit sponsor. So anybody that does want to donate, then we will get them the information for the tax ID number so they can, it'll be a charitable donation, because you also have a goal for this as well, to raise money. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what you want to raise the money for?
yeah, so the money raised for this event, we're not making any money off of it. We're not taking a penny. It's all going towards a scholarship fund that will actually be through Shatter Our Silence. And we're hoping to get around 4 or 5 scholarships towards psychology majors or social majors who want to go into kind of dedicating their career path towards impacting mental health awareness. and just really pushing that and making sure that we can make, even if it's a small impact in that tuition or, in that goal, that we're at least helping someone along so that they can come make an impact in something that everyone there believes in really, really heavily. So those scholarships we pushed out, they're available to graduating seniors, freshmen, and sophomores in college. That'll be the criteria for that, and just really, really hoping that we can make a small impact in that and kind of keep working it up as the years go on.
I think it was, when we met and talked about it, I thought it was a great idea, not only to be able to give back to the community, but and plant some seeds with individuals regarding mental and emotional health, as well as having fun through the activity of football. But this idea of being able to uh, raise money for individuals, for scholarships for individuals who want to go into the mental health field, either through psychology or social work or some other type of helping profession that works toward behavioral health. So I think that's a phenomenal idea, Easton, and looking forward to being part of it, and having Shatter Our Silence being part of it. And as we're here today, we'll talk afterwards. But I think Four Corners, my new wellness center, maybe we can see how we can be a sponsor as well. So
That'd be great.
so, Easton, just real quick, why don't you go ahead and just share again what's the best way for individuals to reach out to you, either wanting to donate, wanting to get involved, have their student athlete be involved, or just contact you? What's the best way? And we'll put those in the show notes as well.
So we have social medias. We have Instagram, it's Top Prospects Training. We also have a Facebook, Top Prospects Training. You can follow us there. On our website, we have a form that you can fill out if you wish to donate. If you have any questions, you just go on our website, click contact, you fill out this form. You don't have to do anything crazy. Send it in. I'll get back to you within that day. And then signups are listed on that page. Again, you just go to our website, topprospectstraining.com. You'll click the bar in the top right. It'll take you to our signups. Fill out a Google form super quick. There's an option for a t-shirt if you want one. All that money from t-shirts will go straight towards the scholarship fund. And that's pretty much it. You can sign up super easy. There's forms out there on our social medias. You can click a QR code if it makes it easier. Trying to just make it accessible for everyone, make it real easy to sign up. So.
Awesome. Well, Easton, I am very much looking forward to partnering with Top Prospects, as well as the July 13th event, and excited about everything that will happen that day or leading up to it, as well as afterwards. So, and again, congratulations for the opportunity to play at the next level at Platteville, and that'll be exciting to hear about as well.
That will. I'm excited for it. So.
Well, thanks for being on. And so if anyone is interested in learning more about Top Prospects, learning more about what Easton is doing, or being involved on the July 13th event, definitely check out what the Top Prospect websites, as well as social media, and yeah, come out, have fun. I'll be out there with a booth, as well as a handful of other vendors will be there, as well as the food trucks. And there's going to be a great opportunity to see these young future athletes be able to have some fun and compete with each other. As always, thank you for being here, and look forward to being with you next week.